Welcome to a new session and a new series. I hope you are well. Over the next few sessions, I intend to cover what I hope will be some useful ideas and insights and points and recommendations, principles uh, based on certain philosophies that are directed towards men. I covered a session previously which I did not necessarily find to be the best and the most fulfilling session I've done in a long time. Uh, at the end of the session, I came to the conclusion that men, despite um, what we may not want to hear, that we are to blame for some of the issues we see in society. And so I decided that I would cover a session which I have titled Manhood, Masculinity, and Meaning. Now you can move those words around as you see fit. The core theme of the message is how we empower young men, and even perhaps some older men, uh, on how to come back to their true self. Whenever a nation starts to flourish and blossom, we always look to the men. Whenever a nation starts to fail, we certainly always look to the men. And therefore, no nation rises beyond the moral compass, the moral character, the moral philosophy and beliefs of the men in the nation. We are seeing a crisis of masculinity across the entire West. We are seeing an attack on what it means to be a man. Most people do not have a concept of manhood. In my words, we are born male. We move from just being male to boyhood phase. From boyhood, we move into manhood. And then, if we are lucky, we move into being gentlemen. So there are four stages of a man's life, you might say, or at least four uh, pivotal avatars that we would journey through. Sometimes we are lucky to go through all of them, and sometimes we are unlucky. In any case, the most important part of this series of sessions, which I will be covering, is to help you get back to the basics, to help you get back to how things should work. You're born male. You grow into a boy by virtue of things you were made to do through observation, by modeling other people around you. But you develop from boyhood to manhood through study, practice, work, development, which includes failure, sacrifice, consistency, persistence, dedication, self-discipline, and all of that. But you're crafted into being a gentleman. If you were successful in going through those stages, one of the things that you find is that by the time you come into your masculinity and your manhood, which is much later in your life, you have integrity. Integrity therefore refers to what I call oneness with self. It means that your words, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, which form your attitude, are consistent with your lifestyle. And therefore you have character. And amongst men and amongst women, people look to you as someone who can be trusted. I'm not referring to being good or bad. I'm not talking about morality. I'm saying that people understand who you are. One of the challenges we face these days amongst men is we change. We are not consistent. We wear different faces. We play the act, we play the role that we expected to play. And so most people do not know who we really are. As I start today's session, therefore, let me talk about something that I think is key. Irrespective of your age, as a man, you will always have two lives. One will be your personal, private life. and the second will be your public image and your public life. If you succeed as a man in going through the 4 stages I mentioned, the true mark of success is whether your private life and your public life mirror each other, and whether there is integrity between what you do privately and what you do publicly. My observation is that very few boys, very few men, very few gentlemen can boast of having integrity in their private and their public affairs. I'm going to unravel and talk about so many issues. The intention is not to criticize and not to make you feel as though you are inadequate, but rather to call you back to the basic parts of what you need as a man to have a flourishing, fulfilling, and successful life. In the process, I will make mistakes, I will make broad generalizations, I will say things that perhaps cut the skin just a little bit too deep. Recognize that as one man to another, this is coming from a place of love and coming from a place of hope. It's coming in good faith. It's not coming to pull you down, but to build you up. But remember, in order to make an omelette, you must break some eggs. I will break some eggs along the way. The objective and the end goal should be the focus, which is to make you a better person than you currently are, or to remind you of a great person or the great person that you are already, and perhaps to encourage you to stay in that lane. For those who have fallen short of what should be the goal or the target, it is my hope and my intention that I can get you back on track. That perhaps I can stay you back to your true self. Many people talk about profound moments in their lives. Some people say that one of the important days is when they come to the realization that there is something more to them and there's something greater within them that is screaming to be let loose and allowed to manifest itself and to do good. That is your potential. You see, we have an infinite potential. And when we talk about, especially for men, and this applies to women as well, when we talk about infinite potentiality, most people see that as a concept that doesn't make sense. We don't associate, ourselves with unlimited potential. You see, I'm going to start today's series by saying the following, and perhaps this is where I start to build the first of the building blocks. Number one, to release your potential, you have to understand who you are. Now, Mark Twain said, the 2 most important days of your life, the first being the day you were born. That's introduction. The second being the day you find out why. That is purpose. So you're introduced into a life and you have to find out why. This is according to Mark Twain. But in addition to that, there are a few things that need to be kept in mind. There's a reason why you were here. There's a time when you start the journey. There are obstacles that will come along the way. There are triumphs that you will have along the way. There should be moments where you stop, you look back for encouragement, but you look forward for hope. And as a journey as a man, one of the things you have to understand firstly is to think about life like an adventure. Think about life as though you've been dumped in this jungle and you're trying to get from point A to point B, but you don't know how. You don't understand the challenges you will face. You believe you are prepared for the challenges, but you do not know what challenges you would face. There are a few things you need to understand. Number one, first, how you see self. I have heard so many people say regularly, I think I'm having a spiritual experience today. And that fundamentally teaches me and tells me that the person does not have a concept of who they are. If you are going to thrive, survive, and succeed as a man, you must begin with an understanding of who you are. I'll share what I believe of myself. I believe it to be the same for you. I place no burden of acceptance on your part, but I think it could help you. Number one, think of yourself as this unique being for whom the most important part of you, the best part of you, the most insightful part of you is unseen to the naked eyes. It's formless in nature, it's infinite in its potential, and it just is. That part of you is a spirit. You are a spirit being. But we live in a physical world, and therefore, in order for you to express yourself and enjoy the journey from A to B, you have been gifted with a physical body. So you are a spiritual being. You are housed or you live in a physical body. And to make sense of this world that you find yourself in, with all of its drudgery and sham, and with all of its excitement and relative concerns, you have been given something that no other life form has. Unlike the animals that we see regularly, who operate on instinct, based on the code in their genes, human beings have been given this unique ability to choose the life they want and the world they want to experience. And we do so by virtue of the mind, but more importantly, the intellect we have. So you are a spiritual being, you live in a physical body, and you've been gifted with an intellect. How you use your intellectual faculties enables you to understand and interpret and also express your feelings via emotions. Now keep that as a foundational part of who you are as a man, because as we move forward, we will develop other things to add, to put on as bricks on this foundation we are trying to build. You are a spiritual being. You're not a physical being. You're a spiritual being. You have an intellect. You live in a physical body. Now, the reason I started with that is the spiritual part of you is infinite and has no limitations on potential. If you can grasp that, it means whatever obstacles you come across, you would know deep down inside you that you can overcome that obstacle. Though you have a physical body, it means that there are limitations and there are limits placed on you. One is psychological or mental, and the other is physical. The ability to distinguish both is key. So recognize, as I bring today's session to a close, there's a private part of who you are as a man, and there's a public part of who you are as a man. But as we start the building block, we begin with the question, who am I? You are a spiritual being. You live in a physical world and in a physical body, and you have an intellect, and how you use your intellect allows you to develop and have an understanding of the world around you. And here's the most important part of that. That intellect allows you to either reject or accept what you experience in life. Now, in the sessions that follow, I am going to start to build around this concept, and I'm going to move forward. At the core, integrity plays a part because it unites spiritual, intellect, physical body. Most of us as men, we are out of alignment by virtue of the fact that we have no integrity. Our personal lives and our public lives diverge. For most of us, we are ashamed of what we do privately. And who we are publicly is just a facade. In a similar way, for most of us, inside we are spirits, but we are not aware of our greatness. Outwardly, we're physical. But because we do not understand who we really are, we make decisions in the physical that we are not too proud of. As I move forward, I'm going to show you how everything depends on how you see yourself. I can teach you strategies, but I can't change how you see you. You have to change that. It is your script after all. You can either accept the script, you can reject the script and write a new one. And at any day in your life, you can choose. You don't have to live the life you've been living in the same manner. You can choose. And this is what makes us quite unique. We have the free will. We have the ability to choose the life we want. Now, as I move forward, you will find that when I come into the whole public life and private life, and I critique both, most of us have a crisis of masculinity because we are ashamed in the fact that we have no integrity, because there are things we do regularly which we are not too proud of. I tend to ask people a simple question, which is, imagine your life being shown in a local cinema next to where you live. And anybody can come through and they can watch what you've done over the past few days, weeks, months, years, publicly. And people will be able to identify you as you interact in your community. Would you be happy for your life to be made public? Now, I know for myself, for example, there will be things about my life, my private life, that I'm not too proud of. I would imagine for most men, they would take the same position. But there is a relative scale between what you are ashamed of and perhaps what you would have preferred to have done differently. All of us have moments of weaknesses in our lives on a daily basis, but there are some of us who have skeletons in our caves, and those skeletons continue to grow. Why? Because we find as men dark corners in our lives, and whenever we struggle, we go into our caves, and we always take with us our toys. And those toys are not toys that we are proud of. We find peace and solace in that cave because it's dark, and we think we alone understand and know what we are doing. Privately, we act in a manner that is not consistent with what we say publicly. Our words, our deeds, our actions, our promises are not integral. They lack integrity, which makes us men who have low character. I'll end as follows. A few weeks ago, I was speaking with my beloved, and we were talking about someone who we know. And as we started to go through the conversation, I pointed out something that I think is necessary and which I will cover, which is character. At the start of the conversation, my beloved was of the view that a certain person was a person of character. And I said, well, let's go through that. Let's unpack that firstly. In order to understand character, we walk backwards. We always begin with the end in mind, and we work from there. The end being the person's lifestyle. So we say, fine, okay. The lifestyle we judge because that's what we see. And many people are deceived by what they see and hear. Again, public life and private life. And so I took her through a process of questions so that I can show her that the person's public life and the person's private life did not have the same level of integrity. And therefore, they were not one. They were two different people. And therefore, there was a question about character. To start with, your philosophy is reinforced by your principles. And your principles are reinforced by your philosophy. Your philosophy will therefore determine what you believe in. We call that our belief system. Our belief system is based on our evaluation of things that we look to And sometimes when we review and revisit our beliefs, our evaluation of that thing changes. So for some people over a certain number of years, they change their belief systems based on new information, or they test their belief system based on new data. Your belief system will form what you consider to be, perhaps in your position, your value system. What is important? Hierarchy of importance. This is more important than that, and that is more important than that. And that value system then forms your morality, right or wrong. Your morality, based on what you believe to be right or wrong, will determine your ethics. Your ethics will inform the behavior and the lifestyle you choose. That lifestyle reinforces your philosophy. At the core and at the heart of all of that is character. And in principle, what you're looking for is that as you go from philosophy to principles, to beliefs, to values, to ethics, to lifestyle, what you're looking for is integrity, consistency amongst all of those parts of a man's life. And if we have integrity, we say that person is a person of good character, or without using good or bad, a person of character. Now here is what's fascinating. Putting aside good or bad on morality, there are people who are not necessarily good in your perspective, but who have character and who have integrity because they stay true to who they are. Their thoughts, their feelings, and their actions form their attitude. The attitude reinforces their behaviors. Their behaviors are evident in the lifestyle they lead. The lifestyle they lead reinforces what they say. So when they speak, you can take it to the bank. It's like a promise. Such people are offended when people say, "Can you promise me this?" And they are offended when people say, "Can you tell me what you think?" in an honest fashion. They are offended because, as far as they're concerned, their words is their bond. They see themselves as sovereign individuals until they speak. The moment they speak, they have to be consistent with what they say. So what you find generally for most men, and going back to the example with my beloved, I said to her, the person you just described is a good person. But let's go through a few things. Let's look at his private life and his public life. And let's see whether there is consistency and integrity. Number two, let's look at their philosophies and what they say that they believe to be the principles upon which they have built their lives. And let's compare it to their belief system or their beliefs. Let's then compare those beliefs to their values and what they say is important. And let's compare those to the ethics, the actions they take, the behaviors they exude, and the lifestyle they lead. And as we went through this exercise, what she found and what I found was that there was an integrity amongst all those parts of the person's life. It didn't make the person a bad person. It just simply meant that there was a weakness in character. Now, at different stages of your life as a man, you will have your own crisis of confidence because you're still trying to form and develop your identity. Identity is something that I will cover in the sessions that follow. As we journey from our family and loved ones, we move into our peer group. And so we are always forming and changing our identity. It's given to us first by virtue of our subconscious mind being open to our environment, our surrounding, our relationships, and our parents. But as we move into being teenagers and choosing for ourselves, we start to take on the identity of the peer groups that we embrace. And therefore, what you find is that your identity is still morphing at certain times of your life. However, this is a big however. Remember the 4 stages. You're born a male, you move into boyhood. In the boyhood phase, as your identity changes, that's perfectly fine. But you have to be careful that it doesn't keep adapting. Adaptability should not be a lifestyle. The most important thing is what happens when you become a man. Now I'm going to end today's session here. I look forward to the following sessions to follow. I will make mistakes along the way. And sometimes I might go off tangent. But I think at the end of the series, if you piece all the series together, I think you will find that there is something of value for you. Now, I'm going to leave you with something that Steve Jobs said. He said as follows, that you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will connect. And that is a similar way in which you can lead your life. I wish you all the best.